And now here at 3 o'clock, this is a live special report continuing coverage of the Louisville cargo jet crash, of course, involving UPS here in Louisville, as we are getting ready for a live news conference again from the NTSB. They have been briefing us every day this week since Tuesday. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt.
And I'm Connie Leonard. Of course, we are keeping watch over several things that are happening today, not only this press conference, but the mayor has sent a video on social media updating folks about things that are going on here in the Louisville area as well. And
the good thing about that is that so far we have no additional victims, at least named by the mayor. And so unfortunately, the number of dead does still stand at 13. We're going to hear from Todd Inman in just a few moments now, so stay with us. We're going to also bring you up to date on the latest news before we go live to the Louisville airport for this news conference, which should bring more information. It did a lot yesterday. We want to tell you about the latest on the victims that we have learned from Tuesday's tragedy. It also involves a 3-year-old girl here in Louisville and her grandfather killed when the UPS jet came out of the sky, crashing through the industrial park just outside of the airport. Connie?
Lou Fedden and his 3-year-old granddaughter, Kimberly Asa, among those 13 confirmed dead from Tuesday's crash, including, of course, the 3 crew on board. And
a family friend has told ABC News that as Fedden, a father of 4 and grandfather of 3, often visited the scrapyard right near the airport to collect metal for income. And the family friend also told ABC News they remembered him as simply an angel on earth who helped raise a whole village. Now to the pilots who died. The crew on board the UPS jet, First Officer Lee Truitt, Captain Richard Wartenberg, and Captain Dana Diamond. We learned yesterday from our ABC affiliate in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that the First Officer Lee Truitt was from Albuquerque. Dana Diamond was a former Bastrop County Commissioner in Texas. Now let's go live to the NTSB briefing.
I'm Todd Inman. I'm a member of the National Transportation Safety Board, and I'll continue to repeat this every time we speak to you, but on behalf of everyone at the NTSB and throughout, our most sincere condolences go out to the family and those that have been affected by this. We know as each day it goes a little bit farther, it becomes a lot tougher. We're still in the fact-gathering phase of our investigations, and I want to recap a few things that we've already accomplished so far. Most importantly, to present again Shi-Hoon Shin, that's C-H-I-H-O-O-N-S-H-I-N, who is our investigator in charge. I also want to make sure we thank all of the first responders. As I said yesterday, Louisville EMA Director and the other individuals have been extraordinary in this. The airport authority, the elected officials, the community has truly come together. And I know Louisville is suffering, but they've really shown their ability to work through this tragedy and to assist us in trying to find out what happened. Again, our role is not to speculate on the cause of why we're here. We want to know what happened and why it happened. And the most important thing is to make sure that it doesn't happen again. As a reminder, earlier, as we said, we believe we may know the exact debris field, but if anyone has located any debris in their yard or knows anything, they can contact us at witness@ntsb.gov. That is witness@ntsb.gov. And today we conducted another family briefing for those survivors on the ground, or for those that have a family or others on the ground. It took several hours. We went through a lot of information. You can obviously tell it's a very tough time for them. I personally spent several hours at the debris field, and I can tell you the debris field itself is still active in more ways than one. In fact, while we were there with the emergency management coordinator, there were some spot fires that were popping up in some compressed paper products and emitting a lot of smoke. There's still hundreds of feet of hose line that are spread throughout there in preparation for anything else that may be needed. One of the reasons why some people might ask, not everything's been put out, is putting additional water on there or additional firefighting apparatus can disturb the scene. So they've been great to work with us. I would also mention there are over 100 first responders at the scene, along with others that are helping to secure it, and that is ongoing. Collectively, we've identified over 500 people that have responded or involved in the investigation to this point. I'm going to give you some specific information that we have that we've been able to come up with so far. The cockpit voice recorder contained 2 hours and 4 minutes of what we consider good quality digital recorded audio. In reviewing that audio, the crew completed their standard checklists and briefings in preparation for the flight. The takeoff roll was what we called uneventful through the different speed callouts. About 37 seconds after the crew called for takeoff thrust, a repeating bell was heard on the CVR, which persisted until the end of the recording 25 seconds later. During this time, the crew engaged in efforts to attempt to control the aircraft before the crash. The NTSB will now be forming a CVR group comprised of technical experts on the MD-11 at the NTSB headquarters in order to review the recording and produce a written transcript. Now, this CVR transcript will be made public only when a majority of the other factual reports are placed in the NTSB public docket for this accident, and that will be several months from now. Additionally, in regard to the plane itself, the bulk of the left engine pylon was still attached to the left engine when the engine separated from the wing. Both of those components are in a secured facility and undergoing further examination. We have conducted additional searches in the grass area adjacent to runway 17R and are beginning to find additional pieces of the engine attachment. Additionally, later today, they will be doing another sweep using metal detectors and other types of apparatus. We have also completed a LiDAR scan of the topography, of the debris field, the airfield, and that is assisting us a lot with a lot of other technical equipment that's been brought in for aerial recreation. We also are utilizing the FBI in assisting us with making safe a number of potential hazards for our investigation. This is very normal in an aircraft investigation. There are a lot of things such as compressed bottles, fuel suppression, or fire suppression materials. Those have to be made safe before we can disturb some of those areas. Yesterday, they made safe approximately 1/2 of them, and we've identified what we believe to be over 30, so that process is still ongoing today. I can say today we have been working in a full operational cadence except for a short amount of time due to potential lightning around the field. The safety of everyone at the location and working on this accident is paramount. But even with that work going on, we still understand the importance of the recovery of those who are still missing, and we are making sure that we are identifying any areas that may have potential victims and making sure that we're trying to prioritize so that the coroner and the medical examiner can obviously do their work. As you may have seen, or you may not have seen, but we actually sent a tweet out about the last 30 minutes. And so I want to make sure we read that for you so you know. During yesterday's media briefing, the preliminary information we reported was that the FAA ADSB data indicated a GPS altitude of 475 feet. When considering how FAA ADSB data is reported, this equates to approximately 100 feet above ground level. This is what we consider to be the most accurate, but I will also say we're corroborating that with the data from the flight data recorder, which is still being validated and will take several days to be validated. Now, I am going to let you know this will be our final on-scene briefing for the media. We will continue to have team members here working on not only the investigation, but the additional work that needs to be done. We will be providing additional media updates through our press releases and investigative updates through our headquarters in Washington. This is a normal practice for us. It's an ability to make sure that we are prioritizing all the resources in the appropriate place. So with that, we'll try to take some questions. None? Yes, ma'am.
With WDRB News, some residents are concerned about oil and black sludge in the waterways around the crash What is the NTSB doing about those issues?
So the question is regarding the environmental concerns around the site. The NTSB does not investigate the environmental concerns around there, nor is it responsible for upkeeping it. I do know that the Kentucky Division of Water, the EPA, and other people are on site. They are actively working on that. They're cognizant. I know the Emergency Management Coordinator has mentioned this several times, but it's not really in the lane of the NTSB investigation for us to even speculate. Tom?
Mr. Inman, can you talk more about the alarm bell that was heard in the cockpit prior to the crash? Any idea what that alarm was?
Well, I said that there was a persistent bell. We need to take that FDR data as well to be able to, because there can be numerous different types of alarms and what they may mean. Obviously, we have a working theory right now, and we're trying to validate that against the FDR. That, with the corroborating evidence in regard to the video that we have, is obviously leading us to, we know that there was a fire occurring. But the call out and the alarm could also be a mixture of several different things. So I don't want to speculate too far. The FDR data and the examination by the groups on that will give us a lot more granularity and be able to help paint a better picture. Yes, sir.
I just want to get some clarity on the timeline of events. So you said 37 seconds into the plane moving was when the alarm bell took off, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the remaining...
Sorry, his question was, at 37 seconds, that's when the first repeating bell, I'm not using the word alarm, repeating bell.
So how much time in the seconds that followed did the pilots have to react?
So the question was, how much time did they have to react? Well, again, the recording lasted until 25 seconds after the initial persistent bells. That was the end of the recording. We believe that right now that the end of the recording was the final point of impact. But you also have to remember we need to go back and look at FDR data, which could have some other factors. There's over 400 data sets in the flight data recorder, which will tell us additional information. Obviously, these have some power supply redundancies, but at some point, there's just no other information to feed into it. So we provide that just to give you a timeline, but it is not the exact framing of when the accident occurred and how it occurred. Yes, sir.
Conrad Deluche, WHAS11 here in Louisville. You're asking specifically about how your investigation moving forward is going to look over the coming days and weeks, especially thinking about the debris field that is over Grade Lane.
Yeah, the question was about the continuation of the investigation, Grade Lane in that area. Again, we know that later today or tomorrow there will be heavy equipment. In aviation crashes, there are what are called salvers, aviation salvers. They're highly specialized in working accident scenes because they know exactly what can be picked up without damaging it and how to do that. And they have some specific equipment needs. Those are being brought in. They were en route. Surveys were done 2 days ago to make sure we had the right equipment. Once those come in, those will actually enable us to lift and move more things. And that will help along with the investigation itself. The one complicating factor for this scene is because of the type of businesses where this impacted, is you're seeing a lot of combination of similar metals or alloys. And so we'll have to distinguish between aircraft parts and those which may already be on the ground. But we've already made plans to try to move as much of that off-site and then evaluate what we need to in a different location, which will hopefully free up more of the debris area. We're cognizant of the disruptions of a lot of the businesses around there and the fact that people need to go back in and check on their property and be able to find and look for some of their lost items as well. Yes, sir.
Has anything about this investigation been atypical compared to past investigations the NTSB has done?
So the question is anything about this investigation been atypical versus past NTSB investigations? I would say every investigation is completely unique, and we walk into it from the very first step saying we have no premise. All we can do is take the facts that are presented to us, analyze them, and then validate and try to come out with the best investigative report. So the NTSB's done 150,000 aircraft investigations in its history. We have a very good process. We have a lot of great experts. We're being supported by a lot of subject matter experts, but every one of them is completely different.
So I've seen where they...
I'll call on you. Yes, sir?
Jonathan Gregg, Spectrum News. Any additional information in the last 24 hours about the MD-11 aircraft
when it was in San Antonio? Anything that you've learned additionally about that time spent there for maintenance?
So the question was about the MD-11 whenever it was in San Antonio. We, as I said, or I didn't say, I'm sorry, it was in for what we call a heavy check. That is something that is used in every airline, which UPS is an airline itself, uses different terminology, but it is considered a heavy check. We've actually dispatched additional people to retrieve some records. The FAA has assisted us in doing that, and the good thing is they have a monitoring system on any of type of those repair facilities. So we feel that we're going to get all the information we need, but it's going to be a lot of information, and so it's going to take a long time to go through and sort through everything that was done while we make sure we're focusing in the right areas. Yes, ma'am.
Alexis Matthews, WLKY. Now that you have been at the crash site, do you anticipate needing to be here longer than a week or a little bit more than you anticipated, or are you still in that time frame?
So the question was, at the crash site, do we anticipate being here for another week? We will be here as long as it takes. Some of us may transfer out because we're better using the resources to bring in other people. But I can tell you this much, we're not going to leave until we know that we've secured all of the perishable evidence and all the information that will be necessary to come out with the most comprehensive investigative report. We will do it as quickly as we can, and with respect to those people who still have family members that have not been found. So we understand that. We balance that. We also have to monitor fatigue for a lot of people, so we may rotate through some people. And I know one of the other things that happens is it's sometimes helpful, new sets of eyes open up different opportunities for us. So the good thing is we have a good cadence, and we're working on that cadence to make sure we're doing as efficiently as possible, but more importantly, making sure we're doing everything that's necessary. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes, Jonathan again from Spectrum News. And going off of that, is the NTSB here until all of the missing persons are found, or does that search get ultimately transferred if that happens, if it comes to that point?
So the question is, does the NTSB stay until all of the victims are found? Our role is not the victim recovery. That is being handled by the local authorities. They're doing an excellent job with everything they can. Our job is to collect the perishable evidence associated with this aviation crash, find out what happened, why it happened, and to prevent it from the future. That's probably it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Anything else you can tell us?
We're going to do two more, by the way. That's going to be it.
Any other details you can share about your findings surrounding the left engine, the age, the service record, anything like that?
Anything else about the left engine? Other than the physical characteristics I said that we have recovered and the other parts that we're looking for, there's not anything specifically more that we can share. I do know that the job cards, which take care of the instructions of how things are done and in what stood up in order, those have been given to us. So our people are looking at it. And I can also indicate we've requested from UPS an exemplary aircraft. And this would be an aircraft that they currently have in their fleet that have the same type of engines. They've been more than willing to provide one so that our inspectors can go and look at similar ones that are with the exact same type of configurations. And I believe today or tomorrow, some of our operations team are actually going to be in the simulators for the ND-11 that are here on site, which is very helpful. And they can look at the cockpit configuration to be able to run some scenarios that they need to come up with that. One more question.
I guess based on what is the significance of the left engine being attached to the pylon? Can you just explain that in layman's terms, what that would mean in the investigation?
The question is in regard to the left engine being attached to the pylon. With the video evidence that we have and what we've been able to see, we know that that area needs to be an area of focus. By letting you know that the pylon is still attached, or let me clarify, the pylon was attached at the time that it disengaged from the aircraft. Now, subsequently, there could be damage that occurred upon its impact with the terrain. So I want to clarify that because when we release pictures, it may not look like what someone would think that we said now. But that is significant to us because it lets us move the focus into other areas. It also allows us to do, in our laboratory in DC, we have metallurgical analysts, and we do a lot of very specific analyzation of that data. So we need to try to figure out, and I think the question yesterday is how much of the airplane will you put back together? This is an area based upon the video evidence we have that we know we need to focus, but it won't be the sole focus. It's one aspect of it, but we need to actually try to do as much as we can to figure out that area because we know we have some form of cause of issue or concern there. Thank you all very much.
And you're watching the live news conference, the final on-scene briefing from the NTSB in Louisville. That's Todd Inman, of course, the Owensboro, Kentucky native, giving us this briefing on this Friday. Again, this tragedy happening on Tuesday at 5:15 for our city. Some of the top headlines, Connie, I know you and I have been taking a lot of notes. I found fascinating that he said that on the takeoff roll, we've heard so much about that from Todd Inman the last couple of days. That began uneventful. Then 37 seconds into the takeoff roll, after the crew called for the takeoff thrust, a persistent repeating bell, his words, persistent repeating bell, is heard in the cockpit, and he strongly clarified, as you were watching along with us, he did not want to call it an alarm. And I think that's some of the top headlines we have here, especially since they have now found that left engine.
Also saying the MD-11, which was in San Antonio for 6 weeks on that heavy check, that they've actually dispatched people from the NTSB to retrieve records from that time that it was down there in San Antonio.
Physically going there.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
They're really zeroing in on that. Our Travis Breeze has been doing 2 days worth of stories on that. We've been bringing you that. I also found it fascinating that they've requested from UPS an exemplary aircraft and as perfect as an MD-11 as they can get, so that they can study the jet they have here in Louisville on the tarmac, and then also they've been in the cockpit simulators for that very aircraft to see how the pilots are trained.
And they said they will be here as long as needed to get the evidence that they need so they can fully conduct this investigation and finish it, that they will not leave until they feel that they have all that evidence from going through the debris, everything that they have.
So we are streaming here live on WHAS 11 Plus, and you're watching us on WHAS TV 11, and we've got a couple of more important bits of headlines to bring you as we continue our broadcast here. First, we want to bring on the phone live our aviation lawyer expert who we've been talking to. He's been giving us excellent perspective over the last several days since Tuesday. Lad Sanger. Lad, thank you again for joining us. You listened to Todd Inman. You heard Connie and I break down the headlines that have caught our eye. What races to the top of your mind about this new information he's giving on this Friday?
So number one, I've been talking about the different call-outs that the pilots make as they're going through the takeoff and the importance of V1 and VR. What we now know from the cockpit voice recorder and the briefing is that the pilots did everything according to their checklists and their top procedures. They got to V1, they decided to continue the takeoff. They had no abnormality. They got to VR, they continued the takeoff in accordance with their procedures. And it wasn't until after all of those speed call-outs had been made that they got the first alert, which was the persistent bell. And at that point, the aircraft is in the air. There's nothing the pilots can do to arrest this just critical catastrophic failure. So I think that's important for the pilots and their families to know that everything we see here now based on this CVR is that the pilots acted in accordance with their procedures and policies, and there was really nothing they could do. Number two, the left engine pylon was still attached to the engine. So these are designed to be frangible so that the engine can break off. I'm a little confused about exactly what he says is left on the engine with regard to the pylon, because he then said there's some pictures, but then later it looks like it's different than what we're saying. But what that's saying is that is going to be a focus of the investigation. Why did the pylon fail and cause the engine to depart the aircraft? And I think you then need to look at the heavy check in San Antonio. There would be no reason in the time since this plane left the heavy check in San Antonio for there to be maintenance work done on those kind of heavy attached fittings.
Lad, how unusual is it that they would actually send people down there to look through any records from that heavy check that they did in San Antonio over 6 weeks?
Not unusual that they want to get all the aircraft's maintenance records, but obviously we have a major structural failure that led to this accident. That structural failure occurred in the area of the left engine. The major heavy check that was done in San Antonio would have been inspecting and working on those areas. So I think you're going to see the focus of the investigation be on what was done in San Antonio, how that work was done, what was reattached, what was inspected. We know that there were some cracks in this aircraft that were found during the inspection. We know that there was corrosion found in the aircraft. And there's going to be, as Mr. Inman said, voluminous maintenance records that need to be combed through. But focusing on that left engine and its attach points are going to be very, very important.
Ladd, give me your theory on what the persistent repeating bell is.
I think that the hint that Mr. Inman gave us is he said there was a persistent and repeating bell. He wouldn't speculate on what it was, although he said we know there was a fire. So there's fire warning systems in the aircraft that activate master caution warning systems, and the ding, ding, ding. A logical inference from what Mr. Inman said would be that would be an engine fire warning.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you. Let me give you a quote. You've been talking a lot about the left engine here with Connie and I. Let me give you his direct quote yesterday. We found multiple pieces of engine fan blades along with the main component of the engine of the number one engine, which is on the left side of the aircraft. Does that maybe fill in some blanks as to what you were talking about with the pylon?
So the fan blades are the fact that there was disintegration and breakup of fan blades would be consistent with the engine falling off or moving. Remember that these fans are spinning at very high speed, and if there's any kind of movement, relative movement of airflow design, other than straight on, or you get the engine coming off the aircraft, that fan is going to contact the case. It's going to start damaging fan blades. So that would be consistent with what we're seeing is the engine falling off and fan blade damage. Those would go together.
All right. They also have asked, the NTSB has asked UPS for a plane with similar engine to look over it that's very similar. They want to see if they can, look at that and compare. Is that pretty standard as well?
Yes.
He said exemplary aircraft. Is there such a thing?
Well, it's exemplar. EXEMPLAR. In other words, sample. Similar.
Okay.
Gotcha.
What they're
Okay,
going to
thanks
be
for
doing,
clarifying that.
Sure. So what they're going to do is they're going to go to the exemplar aircraft, and they're going to look at the attached fittings. They're going to look at the different bolts and how they interface. They're going to document it photographically. Then they're going to look at the accident parts, and they may not be able to find all parts of this pylon and engine. That was another thing that Mr. Inman said. He said, we have video of it, but something to the effect of what we found on the ground is different than what we saw in the video, and it may. Mm-hmm. And my inference on that is that during the crash, the left engine pylon support area was further damaged, which we would expect. Could have been damaged also by the in-flight fire.
Ladd, can I ask you to hang on with us real quick? I want to play a statement that the Louisville mayor put out just a moment ago before we go down to the 3:30 point in this broadcast. So let's run what Craig Greenberg said here. This came out at about 2:30 this afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to provide some updates and latest information and guidance for folks across Louisville following the tragic UPS crash earlier this week. First, at this time, there are no additional fatalities. We continue to pray that there are no additional fatalities that are discovered in the search. The NTSB remains doing their investigation on the crash site. They will have another briefing with the public later this afternoon and will continue to keep people informed about their investigation. I spoke with their lead board member on site here last night. They have a large and thorough team that is going to work as quickly as possible to get us the answers that all of us are seeking. We're also working to get access for the businesses along Grade Lane. We know those business owners and employees want to get back to their work, and the NTSB is working as quickly as possible to clear that site.
Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg, they're giving an update here this afternoon as he is now announcing they're trying to get some more access for those businesses a little later today.
Yeah, which they need.
That they really need,
Yeah.
and because the roadblock has been there. So here's our broadcast plan. If you're watching on WHAS TV 11 and you want to hear more from Ladd Sanger and his excellent analysis on this, go to WHAS 11 Plus. We are live streaming right now. That is our free app. If you don't have it, you can download it now, and we're going to continue our coverage, Connie and I, right up to 4 o'clock before WHAS 11 News at 4. So again, thank you for watching us on WHAS TV 11. We're going to continue now on WHAS 11 Plus. Welcome back to our live coverage today of the final NTS briefing, which began at 3 o'clock today. It lasted about 16, 17, 18 minutes, Connie, and the final briefing here on site.
Were you surprised when he said that this will be the final briefing?
I was. I mean, I thought it might go into next week, but
Right.
I remember after the fatal Comair crash in Lexington, they were doing 2 a day.
Right.
But now we know that their investigation seems to be so thorough because they're actually going to send NTSB investigators to San Antonio
Right.
to get those records that we've been
yeah.
reporting so much about here.
Exactly. I believe we still have Ladd Sanger, our aviation expert, on with us. And may I ask you, the NTSB mentioned that they took the job cards. They've been given the job cards. Is that just like the crew details? Can you tell us what that is, Ladd?
Sure. So when you do a heavy check, there are basically checklists or forms that you complete, also known as cards, that explain what needs to be inspected, the tolerance for it, and how to inspect it. So the fact that they've requested those cards, again, tells us that they're focusing on this engine and its attach points. And so they'll be getting those and then analyzing what was done to it, when, by who, and what standards they applied. Did something get missed? Did something get improperly, a bolt get improperly assembled, improperly torqued? I've done a crash in Hawaii where the tail boom fell off, and they used the job cards to determine that the improper torque. An inspection was used, and it failed to detect fatigue cracking and torque of the bolts. So that would be an example of what they would be looking for on the job cards.
So, Ladd, we have some new video that was released by the NTSB to us. It's drone video. It is drone video that really shows more of a revealing picture. We're going to show that to our viewers here. But I did want to go into the clarification that they made. And there we have the debris field right there, Connie, as that drone is moving low there. Again, this video courtesy of the NTSB flying the drone. Looks like this was from yesterday with the clear skies there. You can see the airport there at the top of your screen, and this is where the jet came to a rest there at the bottom of your screen. They said they updated their briefing from yesterday, Ladd, about the jet's altitude. Important clarification that the data of 475 feet was a GPS altitude. Today, they're saying that equates to about 100 feet above the ground. So initially, much lower than many of us thought from the beginning there when we heard those first numbers come out.
I would say that the 100 to 175 feet that we've been operating on is based on the video, reasonable numbers, and so I'm glad that they got that clarified. I also wanted to offer a couple things that I think would be interesting to your viewers. The NTSB says that they're going to go to the UPS simulator, and they're running some scenarios there. And I was going to highlight some of the things that they're going to be looking for. One of the big things that they're going to look for is they're going to run engine fire scenarios, and they're going to hear what kind of audio and visual activations they get, and they're going to compare those with the persistent bell. They're also going to attempt to run scenarios with a loss of a number one engine and then subsequent loss of power on the tail engine to see how the aircraft will perform. Now, of course, the simulator data package that is used to build the simulator is not going to be able to replicate an engine falling off and all of the subsequent fire and aerodynamic changes to the aircraft. So it's not going to be an accurate representation of what this crew faced, but they will be able to verify some of the sounds that were heard on the cockpit voice recorder compared with the simulator.
Can I ask you just about the GE CF6, what you know about it, just from things that we have seen? Certainly, the NTSB has to do their investigation, and they are the authority that we will be finding out exactly what happened. However, in 2016, after the American Airlines Flight 383 had an issue with that engine, the FAA issued in 2018 an airworthiness directive that required airliners to perform ultrasonic inspections for cracks in stage 1 and stage 2 disc in those engines. What are your thoughts about that? How concerning is it that that this was a 34-year-old plane with that specific engine? I know it's rare, but have you been thinking about that or looking much on that?
This engine will have been overhauled probably several times in the number of years. Many of those rotating components will have been replaced during engine overhauls. So, I think we need to look at that maintenance, what was done on the rotating components, the fans, the blades, and when it was done. If it was done in close proximity to this heavy inspection, that would be more telling and interesting. How many hours are on all of those different components? Because some of them get reused, some of them get replaced. There could be some of the blades themselves replaced. So it's really going to boil down to the maintenance records on the engine to see how long things have been in there, different components, and what their history is, what kind of inspections were done on them. Is there potentially corrosion? Could it have set off a very large imbalance that then caused the engine to depart the aircraft, or is it more of an attach fitting situation? So all interesting things, but it's going to be down to the maintenance records. As far as the engines themselves, the engine has been in service for a long time. It has a number of, it's probably got millions of hours of safe operation. So the design of the engine is pretty well proven. You need to look at the maintenance of the specific components.
Okay.
So, Ladd, you have been with us since Tuesday, since right after this crash happened. You've been talking also to our focus investigator, Travis Breeze, for his individual stories. It's now Friday at just after 3:30. You heard the last final on-scene briefing from the NTSB. Give me your thoughts now. Have you been able to put anything together on your own theories as to just what happened? Why did this plane crash?
I think it's going to come back to the work that was done in San Antonio.
Really?
And what was done there or not done there properly or improperly. Because that's such a major, heavy inspection. So many things are disassembled and inspected. And the time proximity to that heavy inspection in this accident is telling. The second thing is that the flight crew did exactly what they were supposed to do, and they were in a horrific situation with an airplane that was unflyable. And what a terrible situation they were faced with. As a jet pilot myself, I think about those call-outs. I think about what would happen. I had just been through training in the simulator last week where we practice all these scenarios, and there's just nothing more frightful than thinking you've done everything right and you end up with an airplane 100 feet off the ground on fire that you can't control.
So we heard Tom Inman has been asked this question every day nearly about maintenance work done in Louisville. UPS has told them no, there was no maintenance work being done on this jet before it left. This would have been this jet's third flight of the day when it took off at 5:15 Tuesday. You believe that this could all very well go back to San Antonio and the month-long work that was done there?
I believe more likely than not, we are going to find that there is a root of this accident that was started in San Antonio.
Okay, since you've been able to take us that pathway, tell me your theory on the cause. What caused it?
I think that I don't have exactly what caused. I know that it has to do with the left engine, but when you have a heavy maintenance inspection, the airplane is basically disassembled, inspected, and reassembled. And given the close proximity in time to that inspection and that reassembly in this accident, that is the most likely scenario of where there's going to be something that caused or contributed to the accident coming from that major inspection, disassembly, and reassembly.
Wow.
And that's what you, as an aviation lawyer, would be focusing on immediately.
Just like the NTSB is. I'd be wanting to see those job cards for the engine work, and I'd want to be seeing those maintenance records and inspection records from San Antonio.
Okay, Ladd Sanger, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're going to, of course, be having you on again down the road here as we will be getting more information, we believe, in some other kind of form, as Todd Inman at least saying that this was the last news conference they're going to have on the scene here in Louisville. Is there, I guess now, do you feel, by the way, before I let you go, that they have made great progress here on Friday from what you heard him say today?
I think they're doing their best. This is a very difficult crash scene to deal with. The only thing I could think of that would be harder would be one that would be in the ocean. The amount of fragmentation, the debris pad, the debris field is large. It's, all of the different fires that have been there that are still burning, which I didn't expect because of the area that it impacted and the different flammable materials that were there. It's a challenging investigation. But I think that what they were able to find on the runway, they're going to send to the metallurgical lab in D.C. You heard Mr. Inman talking about that. I think that's going to be helpful. The cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder information is going to be helpful. And I think that they will be able to, years from now, we will be seeing, the product of this investigation. And I think they will probably be able to come up with a pretty conclusive reason of why this engine and fire occurred.
All right. Ladd, thank you so much. We'll be talking to you down the line here. We really appreciate your expertise there. And now it gives us a focus right back to San Antonio. It may be exactly why they're sending human beings there and not dealing with email chains and all that. They are going to San Antonio.
Right. Very important. Also important, what Ladd just said, was that we now know the crew did everything they were supposed to do, exactly what they were supposed to do.
Well, Connie, we are joined here live in our studio again by Greg Gitcher, local police chaplain, a longtime Louisvillian. You have, of course, served so many roles in law enforcement and such a healing person as well. You were with us here the night of the crash. And Greg, tell me about the week, how it's progressed, how you've seen Louisville react as we are heading into a weekend which is going to be a big weekend for our churches.
Yes, I would like to think that all the houses of worship in the Louisville metro area will be making some kind of an effort for people to say some special prayers and offerings, for all the people involved. It's not only the family members. I understand we have hundreds of first responders that have been out there now for over 48 hours and just working tirelessly through the night. And I talked to a fireman last night. He said that when they first got there, it was like they thought they were in hell. It's a massive fire, and they actually had to go into like a self-preservation mode because it was just so, just overpowering. So God bless every one of them that they're out there doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But let's keep them in our prayers and, and their families. And one of the things that I can speak of from personal experience, when you see something like this, multiple deaths, catastrophic injuries, it's hard to forget. And you just don't put those out of your mind. So I hope everyone involved will seek out some therapy for themselves.
Greg, you actually went down to the Victim Notification Center this week. Tell me, what was that like?
I did not have to go to it this
you
week.
did not?
I volunteered for it right away.
Oh, you volunteered, I apologize.
And we have numerous chaplains.
Okay.
And so they had it under control. They knew they could call the rest of us in if they wanted us.
What did you, I know you're so connected to the chaplain community. What did they tell you? How did that go? And because the mayor at one point said that there were at least nearly 20 people who had showed up, maybe even possibly more.
And we have, over a dozen police chaplains now. When I came on, there's 3 of us when I first started doing this. So we have a lot of chaplains from different denominations. The fire department have their own chaplains, and so I'm sure they've all been involved in this some way or another. What I can tell you once again, unfortunately from my personal experiences, these people are devastated. I mean, their lives have changed forever. And there's, sometimes there's no magic words you can say. You try to offer prayers, consolation, and maybe they just need a hug or just maybe just be quiet and just hold them. I mean, it's just such a tough situation, and I like to remind the family and friends of these the friends of these families to know that, after this first few days or week goes by, check on them 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, because they're going to need as much help as possible.
Well, and also because they're out there still doing their work. I mean, we just heard from the NTSB that 100 emergency responders are out there right now. They're still watching for those hot spots.
Right.
So they're going to be doing their work for a long time to come before they maybe can even grieve or to take in what they have seen, which is enormous.
And think about it, this is still an active investigation. So we can't bring all the fire hoses in. I'm not a fireman, but they can't bring all the fire hoses and wash things out because there might be some very important evidence in the ashes, right? So that's what's holding them up. So people say, why are they still letting these fires pop up? I'm saying because it's still an active scene. So
a few minutes ago, we were just seeing some video of the vigil that was held last night. How important is that for the community to know that people here are thinking of them every minute and praying for them? That's huge, right?
Absolutely. And, like I said, I like to think that places of worship, I know my own included, have come together. We have a lot of UPS, not only pilots, but employees in our church. And I've spoken to numerous of them. We had a church function last night, the men's club.
What are they telling you?
Over 60 people. We took a moment of silence and we all said our prayers together, And, we're there for a chili cook-off that had been planned for a long time and drinking some adult beverages, but everybody wanted to stop and pay their respects, because they're all touched.
What are they telling you? Obviously, the UPS community is very tight-knit, but what kind of things were they telling you, Greg, about how the community has been reaching out to them or the way they've been going around the community?
Very grateful. They say they've been getting a lot of calls, a lot of texts. People are putting things in their mailboxes and stuff that they don't even know, saying, hey, we're praying for you, we're thinking about you, I mean, I think that's critical, it really is, because like I said, they're going to feel like they're alone here in the next week or so, and that's when we need to stand up and do the right thing.
Have people been turning to you for consolation on this? Because you're well known in the community. You've always been involved in so many of our horrible tragedies here.
Unfortunately, it's true.
Right at the top.
I love the fact that our staff at St. Patrick's immediately pulled all the occupations of, we have 1,800 people, I think, and and our families, I should say. And anyone associated with UPS, they were personally checking on them just to make sure, And so, and I appreciate them doing that. And like I said, you don't have to be a member of a house of worship. You could pray anywhere, of course. But I certainly would like to think that. I was in another church yesterday, Middletown, and there I know they were preparing some thoughts too. So it's very important that the community comes behind them and they feel that love. They feel that part of that. That there's people standing behind them and with them.
And beyond even the first responders and the victims' families who come first, of course, but just people in the community that are stressed, upset, worried about it, still trying to take all this in, that 13 people have died. We saw a beautiful little girl and her grandfather who are part of that. It is so hard to hear about these victims, all the businesses, the people who witnessed this, and so, I was thinking to myself yesterday, man, I feel like I need to be somewhere with community, this weekend to kind of just take it all in, and so everyone can support each other.
And we should say the Veterans Day Parade is tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Nulu. They're going to begin that parade honoring the victims, having a moment for this tragedy. That's so important to have happen, and that's a great place to come down on Market Street to get together with
and
people.
Quite honestly, so many of my friends are UPS pilots. Most of them are in the military. I'd say I don't know the numbers, but the vast majority are Air Force and Navy pilots. There's some civilian pilots, but most of them are military. So there's a deep connection there with Veterans Day. So I think that's an excellent idea. I've seen a lot of the yellow ribbons with the UPS plane on it going around. I put one on my Facebook page, so people are trying to do something, to your point. They want to be involved to help these folks because, we're all family in a way here in Louisville.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when they come to you, what are you telling them now? We're now at Friday. I know you've got your thoughts ahead coming into this weekend.
I tell them right away that, that I'm praying for them personally in my daily prayers. And certainly this weekend at Mass, they will be lifted up in a lot of prayers from all of our 4 services. So I can speak for our church, but I'm just trying to tell people, hey, you have our sincere condolences. I mean, I do funerals, and there's no magic words you can say to them,
Right.
But, we got to make sure that they feel like that they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we're here to help them. I know there's maybe some GoFundMe accounts started. Just be careful, who you help out.
Absolutely.
It's kind of the cop in me is telling me, because you want to do something, but you could be
Police have already put out alerts about that.
Right, and it helps for people to use the fund that the Kentucky set up through the governor, the mayor, to go to that, because they said that money will be going directly towards victims and their families, and anything that first responders need, they are handling those. So always go through those
Absolutely,
direct
Unfortunately,
funds.
there's people that would take advantage of these situations. So I warn people, be careful. And those are the great sites to go to. Absolutely. Yeah.
Greg, people, after several days of seeing this over and over and over, hearing more, people become numb to it. And so it is hard, sometimes for people to let out their emotions or find, a point where they can grieve or to think about everything that's happened. How important, though, is it not to shut off and to continue helping people? And remember, those victims have seen so much unbelievable stuff that we can't even imagine. I mean, we heard one person talk to one of our reporters the other day about actually seeing someone's jacket melting on them. I mean, I can't even imagine what they have seen. It is important for us to keep thinking about all those folks that have been through this.
Yes, absolutely. And I would love to see an organization like UPS, I'd be shocked if they didn't keep those people in their group where they could repeat, every monthly or whatever, that ones that wanted to go, once again, to feel that support because they've all been through it. We can think about what it's like, and but they have been through it. So having that bonding with those other the victims and family members of those victims, I think is really important to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, stick around with us. We want to talk more about the community healing. About 200 people gathered in Louisville last night at the vigil in the South End at the Union Hall, remembering the victims of the fiery crash. It's where the mayor did reveal that a hospital patient had died from their injuries, bringing the number of dead to 13.
Yes, our Jose Alonso and photojournalist Aspen Hester were there last night to capture that somber moment.
We have many people here today that have questions, have anger, have bitterness. It's okay to not be okay at this time.
In front of the Teamsters Local 89 Union Hall, in the heart of the South End, a vigil was lit by candlelight and surrounded by grief. From both Louisville's leaders, Kentuckians, and Hoosiers like Jeffersonville resident Melinda Atman, whose brother works for UPS.
Knowing he was safe, and then my own emotions just grabbed a hold, and it was just absolutely devastating.
Many UPS union workers attending to showcase unity and to remember the victims who lost their lives.
These are my family, because it couldn't have been me.
Support.
So I'm just here to support the rest of the guys.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want.
Lutheran Church Charities going the extra mile to honor the victims with these crosses.
The community can sign messages to the family, whether they knew that person and it's a personal message, or just in general, love and comfort, even promises and encouragement. Then that family gets the heart and the cross.
Union President Avril Thompson says this vigil is their chance to offer comfort through the community that witnessed the tragic airplane crash unfold together.
They were terrified, as you can imagine. I mean, it will terrify you to see it on a recording, a video. You can imagine if you were there, not knowing what's happening. Together we'll get through it.
Mayor Craig Greenberg providing another heartbreaking update.
A 13th victim passed just a short while ago at U of L Hospital.
Silence over the crowd. right after a 13th cross was assembled for that victim. It's where we found Louisville resident Karen Yacht.
I wrote on every one of the crosses my name to let the families know that there is people that care. I'm happy that everybody got up and spoke and reassured the families that, you know, we are going to stick together and that we are united.
Well, and so true. When we heard the interview with the gentleman who was saying just looking at the crash scene is devastating. Imagine what the people who were there went through.
I've since heard from Teamsters 89. They were so happy with the turnout. They were saddened, of course, that the mayor had to make that announcement, but they had timed that vigil right at 5:15, Greg, of course, the time of liftoff on Tuesday. Before we wrap up here on our streaming here and our broadcast, I'd sort of like you to give a message to the community. You did Tuesday night, but now we're sitting here at Friday night.
Yeah, I'd just like to encourage everyone to remember the holiday season is coming up, and it's going to be extra hard on these families. So please keep them in mind over the next 2 months, and be with them any way you can. And every prayer counts. Every single prayer counts. So please do that and reach out to them if you know them and help out in any way that you can.
And where are you going to be Sunday?
I'll be at my Mass. We have 4 services on the weekend. So
where?
At St. Patrick's, out past Middletown. So I'm sure, like I said, we have a lot of UPS people in our church, a lot of them.
All right, Greg, thank you so much once again for your great words in this community since Tuesday. And we want to let you know that we're going to continue our coverage on WHAS TV 11 coming up at 4 p.m. That is our 4 p.m. news. Connie and I will be here with the latest top headlines for you. And streaming always on WHAS 11 Plus app, the free app. Go ahead and download and continue to watch us for free. And we're going to, again, some of the top headlines today, we are learning that from the mayor, there are no new victims to report. We'll see you on WHAS 11 News at 4.